The Honourable oral questions, questions orales, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Canada needs a pipeline to the Pacific so that we can sell more of our product outside of the United States to other countries, make our economy more independent, strengthen the Canadian dollar, and the purchasing power of all Canadians. The Prime Minister has always been against, but now, last week, he did an about-face in Alberta. But when he came back here, there was a rebellion in his caucus, so I took the words from his agreement. Is he going to vote for those words, or can't we believe his words? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Memorandum of Understanding is not something that you can pick and choose from. The opposition leader chose a few words, but not all the words. He forgot the industrial carbon price, the strengthening of that price. He forgot the methane regulations. He forgot net zero 2050. You have to eat the entire meal, not just the appetizer. Eat the entire meal. Well, that would be great if Canadians could buy a full meal, Mr. Speaker. But he's talking about a carbon tax that continues to apply on equipment for farmers, on fertilizer, on those who deliver foods to our stores. And it's causing food inflation to the point that it now is going to cost $17,000 to feed a family of four for a year. Why not get rid of these taxes on groceries so that Canadians can feed their families? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, there is no carbon tax on Canadian farms, which have emissions below 50 kilotons. The impact of the industrial carbon tax on the price of food in Canada, according to the Climate Institute, is about zero.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canada needs a pipeline to the Pacific to sell $30 billion of our energy overseas, outside of the U.S. market, making us more independent, self-reliant, our dollar, and therefore Canadians' purchasing power stronger. The Prime Minister always opposed the pipeline, which his party killed, but last week he flip-flopped and promised while he was in Alberta in a deal that he would build such a pipeline. So I took the very wording right out of that deal and put it into a motion before the House of Commons. He experienced a massive rebellion in his own caucus, but if he's going to vote against his own words, how can Canadians ever believe his words?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as the Canadian national cricket team knows, you've got to play the whole T20. It's not just a couple of overs. It's not just the pipeline. It's not just pathways. It is a price on industrial price on carbon that goes to $130 effective. It is reductions in methane. It is net zero 2050. It is building Alberta strong, Canada strong, durable, sustainable, and
the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I took the wording for the motion right out of his deal. And if he votes against the motion, he's voting against a pipeline to the Pacific. He's voting against overriding the discriminatory and anti-Canadian ban on shipping our energy abroad. He's voting against consultation with the First Nations people and the British Columbia government, and he's even voting against his own beloved carbon capture and storage, all of which I took word for word right out of his own deal. So if the Prime Minister is only in favour of a pipeline when he's in Alberta, but against when he's in BC and Ottawa, how can Canadians even keep track of where he stands on anything?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to welcome the fact that to my hearing, for the first time ever in this House, the Leader of the Opposition has acknowledged the constitutional right of Indigenous people to full, free and fair consultation. For the first time, he's ever acknowledged the role of the provinces in this pipeline. But he hasn't acknowledged yet the need for an industrial carbon price or the reduction in methane, two things that the Premier of Alberta acknowledged, signed wholeheartedly as part of a complete meal.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, not only do we acknowledge the obligation to consult with our First Peoples, we put that right in the motion.
It's there.
It's right there. It's right there, Mark.
It is.
We put it right there so that he could vote for the words that he put in the agreement. But let's be honest, he never planned to honor the agreement. He whispered quietly to the Keep It in the Ground Liberal caucus, don't worry, there will never be a pipeline. We'll delay it until after the election, and then, God forbid, if we win, he says he would kill it altogether. Why can't he say one thing to all Canadians and champion the pipeline with us today?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the MOU between the Government of Canada and the Province of Alberta is about a pipeline. It is about carbon capture and storage. It is about interties with the clean electricity grid of British Columbia. It's about artificial intelligence data centers. It is about an industrial carbon price that works. It is about methane regulations that get methane down 75% so that we can have the lowest emission, low risk, lowest cost oil in the world and build this country.
The Leader of the Opposition.
We put the interties proposal right in the motion, right out of his deal. We put the carbon capture right in the motion, right out of his deal. We put the pipeline and the overriding of the oil shipping ban right in the motion. It came right out of the deal that he signed. So now it's clear that the only thing he really cares about is that it doesn't include an industrial carbon tax that will drive jobs out, drive grocery prices up. Why is it that he wants a carbon tax without a pipeline when what we really need is a pipeline without a carbon tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the grand reveal has been made. Mr. Speaker, I'm not a lifelong member of this House, so I don't know all the rules, but I don't think there's a limit on the size of motions. And in fact, since the MOU is already translated, I think it would be very easy to take the entire MOU in both official languages and propose them if the members opposite would support everything that the Premier of Alberta has done.
That's a very good question.
L'Honourable Député.
The Honourable Member. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, we read this morning a letter from the former Minister of the Environment and former Minister of Heritage, and apparently he's not very happy, but still a member of the Liberal caucus, and he has described the setbacks and the problems with the agreement between the Prime Minister of Canada and the Premier of Alberta. What I need to know from the Prime Minister is he going to choose the environment and his own caucus, or is he going to choose the investors in the oil companies? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the government has chosen Canadians, the future of all Canadians. That means good jobs. That means a sustainable, prosperous economy with major investments in every form of energy and with a future for Quebec that is clean and prosperous. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. The Prime Minister's words are more cute than they are specific. Moving on to the religious exemption, does the Prime Minister agree with his Justice Minister? Or is he not in agreement with his Minister of Justice? Does he agree with the Justice Minister who seems to agree with the Bloc? So What I'd like to know is what is his position, and I think people have a right to understand his personal position. Does the Prime Minister, is he ready to respect religious minorities, or is he going to respect all Quebecers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Bill C-9, which the member across the way is talking about, it's a bill that is there to protect religions. It's to protect temples, synagogues, churches, mosques. And I know that members of the Justice Committee are currently discussing changes, possible amendments to that law. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. So among the religions to be protected, is there Adil Sharkawi, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, we've learned that somebody who's close to the Prime Minister and who's close to the Liberal Party of Canada, we believe that it's just like in the Trudeau era, we've understood that this person has spoken out in favor of the discount drivers, the drivers who are dangerous on our roads. I'd like to ask the Prime Minister, is he going to serve the Friends of the Liberal Party, or is he going to serve Canadians and their safety? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, unacceptable words are always unacceptable, and that's clear. That's absolutely clear. We are working and always working to protect truckers. We are always working to protect rights, and that is why the government is tightening the rules for truckers.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, speaking of trucks, they take steel, unlike what the Prime Minister said when he asked a reporter whether he or anybody uses steel anymore in Canada. You know, farm equipment takes steel as well. And farming takes fertilizer. All of these things are taxed by the industrial carbon tax. Sorry I have to give this elementary lesson in the supply chain to the Prime Minister, but it is the reality. And with this tax, food prices have gone up so that Canadians now have to spend $17,000 a year on groceries. Before Christmas, will he get rid of that tax, or will he be the Grinch of the grocery store?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, for a fleeting moment there, I thought we were going to get another lecture on wood. We were all bracing ourselves over here for another one of those Leader of the Opposition lectures on wood. I do take his point on steel. Indeed, there is steel in farm equipment. Indeed, Canadian farmers are the best in the world. Indeed, our Minister of Agriculture and the entire government are rallying behind them to support our farmers, to support our steel workers, to support our economy, to build big projects with Alberta, with British Columbia. We're going to keep doing that, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Yet the Prime Minister is afraid to stand up and debate grocery prices. He says he knows so much about inflation. Well, he's certainly caused a lot in his life, Mr. Speaker. Then he should be able to stand up and defend the very industrial carbon tax that he says is even more important than a pipeline from Alberta. An industrial carbon tax on farm equipment, fertilizer, food processors, at a time when Canadians are paying twice what they were a decade ago for groceries. At Christmas time, will he do the right thing, get rid of this tax so Canadians can eat?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, let me make it really simple for the member opposite. The industrial...
We have to be able to hear the Minister. The Honourable Minister from the top, please.
From the top. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Apparently, I need to repeat it again and again, so let me do that. To make it simple for the member opposite, the industrial carbon price does not increase the cost of food. It does not apply to farms. But more than that, if we're going to look at that food price report that he is referring referring to. Perhaps he wants to refer to the other parts of it, which is climate change and weather events have become a growing concern for agricultural producers, and increasingly severe and unpredictable weather events are disrupting agricultural production, creating supply challenges that continue to influence food prices across Canada. They should get on board to fight climate change.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, no matter how high they raise the taxes, they're not going to change the weather, Mr. Speaker. And the Prime Minister should be willing to stand up before Christmas and look the seniors in the eye who can't afford to feed themselves, the single mothers who can't afford to feed their children and buy Christmas gifts this winter, while he not only does an industrial carbon taxes on farmers and fertilizer, but a food packaging tax, which will increase grocery prices by $1 billion across the land. So will the Prime Minister live up to his promise to be judged by the prices of the grocery store and get rid of those hidden Liberal taxes on food?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
The Leader of the Opposition has said he doesn't want to do anything about climate change. He wants to talk about imaginary taxes. But when we want to do things for Canadians that are really struggling, as he points out, like, by the way, index in Canada child benefit to inflation, ensure that we have a strong school nutrition program, sign agreements on childcare that are saving families in Ontario $10,400 a year on average, Mr. Speaker, they vote against those supports. So which is it? They don't want to fight climate change. They don't want to stand up for Canadians. What are they doing here?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Stand up for Canadians. The Prime Minister won't even stand up in the House of Commons and answer a question about groceries. She calls, a moment ago, he was bragging about his industrial carbon tax. And now his minister says it's imaginary. So apparently the Prime Minister is imagining things again, Mr. Speaker. How can Canadians keep straight his story on grocery prices when one day he promises to be judged by the price of food, the next day he says we need more of a tax on food, and his own minister says it's all in his head?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, what I said was it's all in that member's head, that there are no taxes on food, there are no taxes on farms. But rather than look for solutions, Mr. Speaker, they just throw roadblocks in the way of every single Canadian who knows that they need supports in difficult times. And by the way, Mr. Speaker, what Canadians are counting on is a government that will stand with them, that will make sure that when they don't have access to dental care, they can get their teeth fixed, that as a senior ages, their income will be geared to inflation, Mr. Speaker, that the Canada Child Benefit will keep up with the cost of living. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? Time and time again.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, as Canadians walk down grocery aisles week after week looking at prices rising to the point where they can no longer afford even to buy beef or put meat and potatoes on their dinner table, they see the Prime Minister who promised that he would be judged by the price at the grocery store, unwilling to even stand up and defend his appalling record of increasing grocery bills by $1,000 for the year to come. It's not just his industrial carbon tax. He's doubled the deficit Trudeau left behind, which will once again stoke inflation. Why is he forcing Canadians to feed his morbidly obese deficit rather than feeding their families?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while that Conservative leader continues to spin the same old rhetoric, we've been focused on cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians. We cut the tax for first-time homebuyers. We continue to lean in on affordability, school food programs, automatic federal benefits, the list goes on and on. Mr. Speaker, we are laser focused on this side on affordability. That Conservative leader and his party continues to spin the same old tired rhetoric time and time again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, I'm glad that member got that off his chest, but the reality is that the question was for the Prime Minister. He's the one who promised to spend less, and yet he doubled the deficit that Justin Trudeau left behind. His deficit is $16 billion bigger than he promised. he's added about $90 billion of net new spending, most of it on governmental operations. And all of this will contribute to the inflation Canadians are paying at the grocery store. So why won't he stand up and take account for the food price inflation he's caused while Canadians struggle to put Christmas dinner on the table?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, newsflash, we're in a trade war. We need to work together. The government of Alberta supports this MOU in its entirety. The citizens of Alberta gave our Prime Minister 2 standing ovations in Calgary for this MOU. The only people who are divided on this are the Conservatives. They should get on board and build Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Maybe we should tell that to the Liberal member for West Vancouver Sunshine Coast, the Liberal member for Vancouver Grenville, the Liberal member for Beaches East York, the Liberal member for Victoria, for Vancouver Quadra, South Surrey White Rock, Honoré Mercier, Fleetwood Port Kells, Laurier Ste. Marie, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, North Vancouver, Capilano. These are all the 11 Liberal MPs who have spoken out against the Prime Minister's deal, and instead of standing up to them, instead of standing up to the Leave It in the Ground Liberal caucus, he's backed down, put them back in charge, and blocked his own pipeline.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, every one of those 11 people, indeed every one of the 170 people on this side of the House who were elected to put Canadians to work, building major projects, building it with Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, Canadian aluminum, protecting our workers, protecting those most vulnerable, coming to the aid of families. 170 Liberal members on this side of the House supporting a strong Canada, a compassionate Canada, and we are completely united on all of that, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, we wondered why the Liberals... The Honourable Member can start from the top. We don't hear very well. So he can go ahead. Mr. Speaker, we were wondering why the Liberals are protecting low-cost drivers by shifting their responsibilities to the provinces. Well, imagine this. One of the Prime Minister's closest organizers, Tej Dulat, works for the companies that hire these drivers. At the Prime Minister's swearing-in ceremony, this generous Liberal donor was even seated right next to him. No risk of confusing him with a lobbyist because he's not even listed in the lobbying registry. He's using his privileged relationship with the Prime Minister to defend discount drivers, even if it means putting lives at risk. Is that why the Liberals aren't doing anything on this file?
Ministre des Transports.
The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, it's this Prime Minister who has called on the CRA to crack down on these discount drivers. It's this Prime Minister who's ordered more inspections to make sure that the Canadian Labour Code is being respected. It's this Prime Minister who's making sure that trucking companies, legitimate trucking companies, can operate in Canada. And that's been recognized in a meeting that I had this morning with who? The Quebec Association of Truckers, who've congratulated the government for everything that has been done by this government. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Quebec Truckers Association also says that there's a lot of things the government can still do to fix this file. When it comes to discount drivers, the Liberals once again appear to be protecting the interests of their friends. Unless it's the interests of their own pockets. Because in addition to the Prime Minister's organizer, who's lobbying unofficially, the Liberals have received $85,000 in donations from people linked to discount drivers. It's extremely worrying to see their inaction when road accidents have gone up by 35% in Quebec in just 1 year. If road safety is really a priority for the Liberals, how is it that the Bloc's 10 requests have not been applied? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, in all the actions that have been taken by the Prime Minister, by the Minister of Finance, by the Labour Minister and the Minister of Transport to crack down on these discount drivers, regime that I would note was created by Mr. Harper, one thing has been missed, and I think that Mr. Plamondon is going to come and reproach the Bloc Québécois because the Bloc is asking for the federal government to interfere in the jurisdiction of the government of Quebec to fix their issues and their problems. Mr. Speaker, we're not going to do that.
The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
The Prime Minister can't be trusted on pipelines. He endorsed Justin Trudeau's cancellation of the approved Northern Gateway pipeline and stopped the shipment of Canadian oil through northern BC. Now he claims he might allow a new pipeline, but his Liberal MPs insist that it will never get built. Instead of playing both sides, the Prime Minister should definitively endorse a new pipeline to Canada's west coast and cancel the Liberal ban on shipping oil from northern BC. Will the Prime Minister finally stop the doublespeak, stop obstructing the pipeline, and vote for the Conservative motion today?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, for a future pipeline, it means diversifying our trade and greater competitiveness on a global scale. We need to put cards in our hand to fight this trade war. But there are things we need to do to get there. Things like in the Memorandum of Understanding that we can get united behind, like the carbon price. The Conservative motion conveniently ignores strengthening industrial carbon pricing. The leader opposes something that the Premier of Alberta agrees with. We support the entire MOU. We hope they will.
The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
Mr. Speaker, we'll take no lessons from a minister who conducts Indigenous consultations over Zoom. And we absolutely will oppose a carbon tax in all of its forms, Mr. Speaker. This Prime Minister has said that he told his Keep It in the Ground caucus that the pipeline will never happen, while he promises Albertans that it might. So today he can finally come clean with Canadians and provide crystal clear clarity. He can support our motion, which is based on his MOU, vote to cancel his tanker ban, and greenlight a new pipeline. So why doesn't he get out of the way, stop obstructing the pipeline, and vote for our Conservative motion?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, what you're hearing from member opposite is exactly the problem with this MOU. It discounts several things. One, that in a federation, we work together. We work with provinces, we work with Indigenous communities to make things happen. Getting out of the way is only a strategy if you want to get nothing done. The way to get things done is to work together. And for every single member from British Columbia on the other side of the House, I ask, how can they support a motion that ignores British Columbia and British Columbians completely? They should be ashamed of themselves.
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Today is a monumental day for Canada's energy sector and for my province of Alberta. We will see if the Liberals stand behind their Prime Minister's promise to build a pipeline for Canada, or will he do as his predecessor and submit to his Keep It in the Ground caucus. Families in my riding are worried that this Prime Minister is paying lip service once again and that these are empty words. And it's no surprise as to why, after how this government has destroyed the natural resources sector over the last decade. So will the Liberals stop obstructing a pipeline and vote for our motion? Or will Alberta have its hopes dashed again?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Speaker, I think that honourable member should tell her constituents this, that this government was elected to do big things, that we are focused on making the largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history, Mr. Speaker. We're going to be building bridges, community centres, hospitals, transit, thousands of good-paying jobs, Mr. Speaker, with Canadian steel, Canadian lumber, Canadian aluminum, with Canadian skilled trades workers. But the Conservatives voted against every single part of this, Mr. Speaker. Voted against building houses, voted against major projects, voted against opportunities for youth. When will the Conservatives get on board, Mr. Speaker?
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Well, this Prime Minister continues to talk out of both sides of his mouth. He has mastered his predecessor's art of saying one thing in one province and another thing in another. Albertans want the truth. In a pathetic display of misrepresentation, his own Calgary MP couldn't even defend the leading sector and source of livelihood for Calgarians. So will this Prime Minister stand in this House and tell the nation, tell Alberta, tell Calgary, and tell the member for Calgary Confederation that his government will not blame anyone else, not put this on anyone else, and that he will ensure a pipeline is built?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr.
Speaker, the MOU is about building Canada strong. The people of Alberta, I was born in Calgary. I talk to Albertans every single day, and they know that our Prime Minister is bringing Canadians together to build big things, to build a stronger economy. Meanwhile, the Conservative leader has spent 20 years in this House, including as a minister, and has built nothing, continues to divide Canadians, continues to play political games. Mr. Speaker, now is not a time to play games. It's time for serious leadership to step up and build Canada strong.
The honourable member for Edmonton Northwest.
The Prime Minister is talking out of both sides of his mouth on pipelines and tanker bans. Behind closed doors, he whispers to the Liberal Keep It in the Ground caucus that the pipeline will never be built, while signing an MOU to build one for Canadians. The Liberals say they are for a tanker ban, but then the Prime Minister promised to override it in the MOU. The Prime Minister promises Indigenous communities a seat at the table for a pipeline, but has ignored them for the last 8 months and is cutting them out of the tripartite decision-making table. Wow. Will the Liberals stop obstructing the pipeline by voting for their own MOU?
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Thank you. You know, I want to speak to what the Conservative Party claims this motion speaks to. While on one hand, they speak to half the sentence of respecting consultations for Indigenous people, they are also speaking on the other side of their mouth to the jurisprudence that would allow these projects to move forward. So I want to understand, what are they doing? Are they consulting or pushing projects forward? Because that's the concern of Indigenous people. That is what they're bringing to the table. That is what we're looking at when they come and work with us in partnership. And that is the future that they want to decide on with us.
The honourable member for Acadie-Annapolis.
The Prime Minister said he would be judged by. The minister responsible for COA knows well that fisheries.
Afraid this would happen. Not from the top, but he may continue.
Mr. Speaker, the minister responsible for COA knows well that fisheries, forestry and agriculture remain at the heart of Nova Scotia's economy. When the Atlantic Economic Panel was announced 2 weeks ago, were representatives from these sectors included? And could the minister tell us how he plans to ensure that these important industries will have a way to contribute to the panel's work?
Great question.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Conservative Shadow Minister for Economic Development in Atlantic Canada for being finally permitted to ask a question about Nova Scotia in the House of Commons. Now, Mr. Speaker, it speaks volumes about the Conservative Party that since he has joined the government, they are yet to actually replace him and go without a voice from Atlantic Canada representing the economic interests of Atlantic Canada. Yes, we rely on these traditional industries that he cited in his question, but we've appointed a private sector-led panel of business leaders to shoot the path forward on energy, on defense, on clean tech to ensure we have good pay and jobs.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
I think it's safe to say, after all of that, the Prime Minister regrets telling Canadians that he's going to be judged by the prices at the grocery store.
That's right.
Because these prices are skyrocketing and it's only getting worse. Now 1 in 10 people in Toronto are using a food bank, and even full-time job holders have to use one too. Instead of getting full carts at the grocery store, Canadians get to watch trending TikTok videos about making what they're calling poverty meals. That's out of ramen and hot dogs. So can the Prime Minister seriously say, with a straight face, that this is the standard that he wants Canadians to live under?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While the Prime Minister is delivering for Canadians, let's take a moment to reflect on the hypocrisy of the members opposite in this House. They voted against meals for children at school. They voted against $800 worth of savings for families through the school food program. They voted against dental care for seniors and for children. And they voted against saving parents thousands of dollars on childcare. If the members opposite want to talk about judgment, Mr. Speaker, they should start by looking at their own record. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Sir, as that after a decade in power, Let Ottawa Feed Your Kids, they've already admitted their failure after 10 years. Let me put it in context, though, for that minister. The number of people using a food bank in Toronto alone could fill the Rogers Centre 8 times every single month. And with the average grocery bill set to rise by $1,000 next year, the government's $11 a year tax cut to those who need it most isn't going to cut it. So no, we will not vote for it. Instead of giving crumbs back to Canadians, why don't they cut the taxes off of food and let Canadians have a meal at home?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, for starters, there is no tax on food. That's right. We can start there. Canadian families with children under 6 are receiving up to $8,000 a year tax-free per child. This is a program that is tagged to inflation to meet and keep up with the cost of living. Members opposite, year after year, vote against investments like the Canada Child Benefit. It is shameful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Canadians aren't asking for more government programs. They're just asking for the dignity and respect of being able to provide for themselves and their families. Right now, Canadians are struggling more than ever to be able to afford things. And in my riding, I just received a phone call from an elderly gentleman who shared with me that he's now down to 1 meal per day. And he's desperate, and he's without hope. And he's looking at this government and he's saying that they've abandoned him. And so he's looking for an answer. Will the Liberals simply repeat their tired talking points about big government programs and the food school program, or will they actually provide a real solution to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, if you listen to the Conservatives over there, Mr. Speaker, there is no solution. The solution is sink or swim. If you can't afford to feed your family, oh well, too bad. The state's not there to take care of you. But here in Canada, we've always believed in taking care of each other. It's why we're known for our universal health care system around the world. And Mr. Speaker, we've built on that. We make sure that we take care of people who need food. We make sure that families who need extra help get the Canada Child Benefit. We make sure that if you're working poor, you get a working income tax benefit. Because why, Mr. Speaker? We believe that Canada is stronger when it includes all of us.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge.
Again, Canadians are not asking for more government programs or to be spoken to in the manner that that minister just did. They are simply asking to be respected and empowered to be able to provide for themselves. And one of the best ways that this government can do that is by taking unnecessary taxes off of food. According to the latest report, food prices next year are going to go up by about $1,000 more per family. $1,000. There's a woman in my riding who recently reached out to me as she has 4 kids and she relies on the food bank. She feels desperate and without hope. She just wants the dignity of being able to provide for her kids. Well, the Liberals here.
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Speaker, I think that you've heard it from this side, and we will keep on saying it. We are there to support Canadians, and you hear about the many programs that they voted against that we are putting in place to support Canadians. But if we're going to rely on that food report, also should look at what it said about, for example, the price of beef, which says nearly a decade of drought in the leading beef-producing area of Canada has resulted in the smallest number of cattle since the late 1980s. Reduced supply and consistent demand creates upward pressure. The cost of food is going up because of climate change. There is no tax on food, but we will be there to provide the programs to help Canadians.
The Honourable Member for York-Durham.
Here's a resident they're not supporting, Mr. Speaker. He wrote to me and said, quote, I have lived in the same neighborhood for more than a decade, and almost every essential cost of living has increased dramatically. He had the receipts for his groceries from $200 a month to $600 a month. And what did the Prime Minister say? We should judge him by the price of groceries at the store. Well, that's some judgment, Mr. Speaker, some failure. And next year will get worse. Canadians will pay $1,000 or more, according to the Food Price Report. Given those struggles, will the Prime Minister end his inflationary spending, scrap the carbon tax, and get rid of the new fuel tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it's almost the holidays. Goodwill to all. The opposition leader says, nah, let's circle back next year after my leadership review. Meanwhile, hardworking Canadians wait for a well-earned tax break. They wait for a $50,000 first-time homebuyer's tax cut. Children wait for healthy meals at school. Families and seniors wait for affordable housing. And In addition to that, that member won't even stand up in this House and support the healthcare infrastructure fund that would build a hospital in Durham region that's badly needed for a family. He should be ashamed of himself.
The honourable member for Mégantic, l'Érable, L'Aude-Binière. The Prime Minister sat just across the way, made it a personal issue. He told Canadians that he wanted to be judged on the price of groceries. Irrespective of the excuses the Liberals keep repeating in the House today, it was the Prime Minister himself who decided what he wanted to be judged on. Well, not only has he failed miserably to bring prices down, but the bill will increase by another $1,000 next year. Why has the Prime Minister duped Canadians who are increasingly lining up at food banks because of his inflationary spending? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's rather unfortunate to spend so much energy to be elected, only just to harp on the same thing over and over again, speaking points from their leader to answer. It's even sadder to see that they vote against the childcare benefits, against the school food program that is saving $800 for the most vulnerable families. They voted against affordable housing, Mr. Speaker. They voted against the dental care system. When he talks about inflationary spending, I would like him to tell us what he even means by that. The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable, L'Aude-Binière. Consultants, bureaucracy, all of that. No Liberals has stood up to defend the Prime Minister who said to Canadians, "You will judge me on the price of groceries." That is what he said. 36% of Quebecers face food insecurity, 3 million visits per month to food banks in Quebec. The Prime Minister's wealthy friends are certainly not affected by the reality of families skipping meals. They have enough money, they eat their fill. He promised to lower food prices. He misled Canadians. Will he stop his inflationary spending so that families can finally eat their fill, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister. In the previous answer, Mr. Speaker, I listed everything against which they voted that supports people in his riding, Quebecers and Canadians from coast to coast to coast. We were elected to give opportunities to all Canadians and to all Quebecers, and that's what we're doing. 54,000 jobs created in November, 67,000 in October, 60,000 created in September. Unemployment is going down, inflation is going down, Mr. Speaker, because on this side of the House, we are building the strongest G7 economy. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said that we needed to judge him on the cost of groceries. 8 months later, the price of food has exploded and families can't feed themselves. The 2026 report forecasts a worsening situation in Saguenay. 70 organizations that offer food assistance confirm that requests have gone up faster than what is available. When will the Prime Minister end his inflationary spending so that Canadians can eat their fill? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize how good my colleagues' local teams are, hockey-wise, but what he doesn't recognize is that no one in the Saguenay is saying, take these programs away. Remove the school food program. We don't like it. Remove support for organizations. We don't like it. Remove support for volunteers. We hate that. Remove the housing benefits. No one is saying that in the Saguenay, Mr. Speaker. The member should vote with us to keep these supports for the people of the Saguenay and elsewhere in our country. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals need to stop burying their heads in the sand, and they need to be aware of what is actually happening on the ground. The majority of requests now come from families where both parents work. We're no longer talking about single parents, and that's alarming. The Canadian Food Report predicts an additional $1,000 per year per family for food, one of the largest increases ever seen in our history. When will the government allow Canadians to finally feed themselves with dignity? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, my colleague, the Minister for Public Services and Procurement, asked a very pertinent question earlier. What is an inflationary spending expenditure at the end of the day? Month after month, day after day, week after week, in these halls, we're asking, is it supporting aluminium workers? Is it helping kids eat at school? Is it helping people with their dental care? Is that inflationary spending? Is it health transfers to province? What is an inflationary spending? After all of these months, could we finally get a definition of an inflationary spending?
The honourable member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, in my father's dying days, he mustered the courage to stand in this chamber to fight for the passage of his private member's bill that set out a vision for the prairie provinces to continue playing their prominent role in our federation. That vision was realized with the passage of the Green Prairie Economy Act, which received royal assent shortly after his passing on December 12, 2022. Can the minister responsible for prairies share how the newly announced Prairie Partnership Initiative enhances this vision and establishes new opportunities for growth across Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
I want to thank the member for Winnipeg South Centre for his question and for his continued support as we advance the legacy that his father set in motion for a stronger prairie economy.
Here, here.
The Prairie Partnership Initiative is a new coordinated approach that gives significant prairie projects a clear pathway through the federal system so that they can move from ambition to action. By aligning federal expertise with prairie priorities, the PPI will help meet this critical moment by positioning the prairies at the...
The Honourable Member for Middlesex.
The Prime Minister told Canadians that he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Well, Canadians have judged, and they're angry. When the Liberals came into office in 2015, the Canadian grocery bill was $159 a week. And after 10 years, it's more than doubled now to $338. Greg from Kamoka wrote me to say that he's sick of the rules for you and not for me attitude. Speaker, families can't afford meat and they're lining up at food banks while these Liberals continue to feast at public expense. So why does this Prime Minister think that he deserves luxury while Canadians can't afford lunch?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, watching the leader of the Conservative Party lose in slow motion today has been a little bit amusing, but what's more interesting is watching him do it with a big grin on his face because he's so proud of himself. He's proud to vote against childcare, and he's proud to vote against school food programs, and he's so proud to vote against affordable housing. But what else he's proud of today, he's also proud to call climate change just weather. And he's also proud to refer to Indigenous people with a possessive noun. They're not ours. Mr. Speaker, he seems very proud of himself, but you know what Canadians are proud of? They're proud of our institutions. They're proud of programs that support them, and they're proud of this side, on this government. We're supporting them.
The Honourable Member for Middlesex London.
Starving, and this member is making fun of things, and I say the Liberals should all be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Bad Liberal policies are what's driving up the cost of food by $1,000 next year. Caitlin from Thames Centre says the government is driving us into systemic destruction at the cost of food, fuel, and groceries soar. Elber from Strathroy asks why the Prime Minister promised cheaper groceries, safer streets, and more homes, but after 7 months, all he's delivered is higher prices, higher crime, and less for hardworking Canadians. So do the Liberals even care that there's over 2.2 million visits to food banks, or are they just here to help Brookfield line the Prime Minister's pockets?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, there's no taxes on groceries. There's no taxes on food. There will never be taxes on groceries, and there will never be taxes on food. And that member's a farmer. She should know better. She should know that the industrial carbon price has absolutely no impact on the cost of groceries, Mr. Speaker. They keep talking about things like the price of coffee. Maybe they should stand up and talk about how industrial carbon pricing in Canada affects the Colombian price of coffee, Mr. Speaker. It's absurd, Mr. Speaker. They're very, very proud to vote against all these programs that support Canadians, but if they could just provide Canadians with one solution to help them at the grocery store over this holiday season. Merry Christmas. Yeah, truly, Merry Christmas.
The honourable member for Saskatoon South.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Guess what, Mr. Speaker? I have a better idea. Come to my food bank. 23,000 visits a month at the Saskatoon Food Bank. And better yet, we have a resurgence of scurvy in northern Saskatchewan. The Canadian Food Price Report confirms additional $1,000 will be needed next year to feed a family of 4. So is the Prime Minister ready to remove the industrial carbon tax?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let's see, what has this tired and old opposition accomplished in the last 10 years? Addressing food affordability, zero achievement. Addressing housing needs, zero achievement. Building major projects, zero achievement. Addressing the challenge of tariffs, zero achievement. But their negative attitude towards Canada must stop. Because if they don't stop attacking Canada, I'm saying today I'm going to take every single one of them off my Christmas card list.
The honourable member for Surrey Newton.
Mr. Speaker, last week the President of the Treasury Board held and hosted a co-summit on reduction of the red tape, bringing together the leaders from across the country. Could the President update the House what came out of this summit and how this work will help cut red tape, speed up approvals, and strengthen Canada's economy?
The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. President, I would like to thank my colleague for this excellent question. The summit was an important step forward, building on the 60-day red tape review we launched in July. We recently announced a new series of horizontal reviews. These reviews look across government to eliminate regulatory barriers and deliver faster and more reliable services, so we can grow our economy faster and build Canada strong, and to build the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Well, 8 months later, those prices have skyrocketed. I've heard countless horror stories in Edmonton of families struggling to afford food. I've even heard of single moms selling their furniture online to pay for rent and groceries. Just this week, Miranda from North Edmonton told me, I honestly don't know how people are getting by. It's heat or eat. When will these Liberals cut their inflationary spending and gas the industrial carbon tax so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
2025 winds down and we're reviewing our Spotify Wrapped. Let's look at the Conservatives' 2025 Wrapped. In 2025, the Conservatives lost their 4th election in a row, spent Alberta's money on a by-election so they could say they created at least one job, invented imaginary taxes, and presented a platform with no plan to support seniors or families. Mr. Speaker, they need to work on their playlist because they are not listening to the same tunes as Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
The former Liberal Environment Minister says this government approved a bitumen pipeline that abandons Canada's climate goals and risks BC's coast. In this House, the Prime Minister said British Columbia and impacted First Nations must agree to this project. In BC, the Energy Minister claimed free, prior, and informed consent is required. But the MOU signed between Ottawa and Alberta says no such thing. Liberals are telling one story here, another in BC, and yet another in Alberta. Canadians deserve to know, is consent for this pipeline required or not?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was very clear in this House. He said that the agreement requires agreement from British Columbia, requires the agreement of First Nations, That has been said in this House, and we stand by that right here, right now, and we will continue to.
The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One section of the enormous Bill C-15, over 600 pages of omnibus budget bill, that's not yet been even mentioned in this place, and it wasn't mentioned in the budget either. So the idea that the Budget Implementation Act just implements things in the budget is belied by pages 301 to 304, with it exempt at ministerial discretion the application of Canadian law to any entity, which could be people or corporations, at the discretion of the minister with no public oversight. Can anyone here, particularly Minister of Finance, explain?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
I agree with the member that the budget bill is full of really great measures for this country, but one thing we can all acknowledge is that Canada has world-class innovators and entrepreneurs, those of whom will help us build the strongest economy in the G7. As part of that process, we're reducing red tape to broaden the use of something called regulatory sandboxes to help foster and spur research and development and innovation. We'll do this in a responsible way, in a forward-looking way, and in a temporary way. These will be authorizations that are limited, but these will help us keep up with the speed of innovation in this country. Thank you.
And that concludes question period.
When it comes to great gifts, every detail counts.
Tired of applying and never hearing back? Let's turn your resume from looking like this to looking like this. And you can do it under a minute thanks to Adobe Acrobat. First, upload your current resume in Adobe Acrobat. Then click Edit, where you can edit your resume without having to dig up the original file and go through extra steps. Make sure to add specific skills tailored to your job title and metrics to showcase impact. Because when you have all of these from this checklist on your resume, you're ready to get hired. Start your 7-day free trial today.
There are moments in the nation's life, Madam Speaker, when people look to our leaders, not for applause lines, corporate buzzwords, social media clips, but for honesty, humility, seriousness. They look to this chamber and ask whether those entrusted with power truly understand the weight of the burdens on the shoulders of the people. Now is one of those times, because Canadians are tired. They are exhausted. Not because they don't want to work, but because they bear the burden of an extremely expensive government that takes too much and returns too little, that focuses on its own obsessions rather than on the needs of the people who pay the bills. Those Canadians who pay the bills, the ordinary Canadians, no, the extraordinary Canadians, who build the homes, who swing the hammers, who frame our buildings, who drive our trucks, who invest in our businesses, who mortgage their homes to start new enterprises. Those are the silent voices whose murmurs of pain and suffering have grown louder and louder without any heed from government. They needed hope yesterday. They needed relief. They needed evidence that someone in this government had heard them, believed them, respected their sacrifices, and was finally prepared to act in their interests instead of the government's interests. Instead, they were met with the most expensive failure in modern Canadian history. This Prime Minister, the figurehead that the Liberals had paraded in front of Canadians as a new guarantor of discipline, competence, stability, the man we were told would clean up the Liberal mess, has brought a bigger shovel and dug a deeper hole. Far, far deeper. For nearly a year, the Liberals and their supporters told us that this Prime Minister was different than the man he had advised for the preceding 5 years. Smarter, more responsible, that he would be the adult in the room. But even before the budget was presented, the promises were all broken. It was revealed that the mythology was false, because this budget confirmed the truth. Until this government, in this government, there is no discipline, no restraint, no plan, only politics, posturing, and pain for the people who do the work, pay the taxes, and hold the country together. This Prime Minister is proving to be the most expensive in Canadian history. With a $78.3 billion deficit, his is twice the size that Trudeau left behind, $16 billion bigger than he promised, the biggest by far outside of the COVID period. And over the 5 years that follow this budget, the Prime Minister expects to add $314 billion of new debt. That is a third of $1 trillion, or 20 grand for every family in Canada. Think about that. We were told that the adults were finally here, but instead, the bill payers of this country are being told to brace for yet another reckless round of spending. $10 million of new debt added every single hour. Every hour, Canadians trim groceries, delay children, move in with their parents, take on second jobs, while the government indebts them $10 million an hour. Not for homes, not for prosperity, not for any benefit of the people, but for the survival of the government itself. And where does this indulgence take us all? The national debt is now $1.35 trillion. To put that into perspective, that is by far the highest in Canadian history. A newborn child in this country is born with $30,000 of debt to his name, and a family of four, $120,000 of debt. That is a small mortgage for most people, and that is just the debt they owe through their federal government. Now, our young people are told that they have to put their dreams on hold to pay this crushing burden. And what do they get for it? More doctors, more nurses, more homes, more paychecks? No, none of the above, Madam Speaker. The money goes to interest on that debt. This government is now spending $55.6 billion. That's more than we transfer for health care to the provinces, more than the government collects in GST. So when you pay GST next time on a purchase, know that every penny is going to pay bankers and bondholders rather than paying nurses and doctors. That is the human cost. Every year, Canadian families spend $3,300 on interest for the federal debt alone, money that will not fund a single MRI machine. It will be waste layered upon waste. And while Canadians tighten their belts, eat lower quality food and less of it, they hold off on their dreams. Liberals offer one thing in return: decline disguised as virtue. They promised that the debt to GDP ratio would fall. It rises. This Prime Minister promised that confidence would return and investment would return. But then on his own budget graph shows that investment is actually collapsing in real time. Every single quarter that he has been in office in this calendar year, we'll have seen a serious decline in investment. So much for spend less and invest more. Mr. Speaker, they promised stability. They delivered stagnation. They promised the next generation a fair shot. They've delivered them a sentence to slow growth and high costs. And that might sound like economists speak, but here is the real human cost of that. As Canadians walk into grocery stores, they see that since March, when the Prime Minister was elected on the promise that he would be judged by the prices at the grocery store, strawberries are up 25%, beef sirloin up 25%, beef stew up 20%, coffee 20%, chicken and drumsticks up 17%, salad dressing another 17%, pork ribs 15%, chicken thighs 14%, even basic mushrooms 13%. Canadians are not eating gourmet, Madam Speaker. In fact, many of them are not eating some days at all. A recent survey and study done by a food bank association demonstrated that over 10% of Canadians are now skipping meals for an entire day because they cannot afford to eat. Food bank usage tells the story. It has doubled since 2019, when this Prime Minister became the economic advisor to his predecessor. 1 in 5 Canadians who go to a food bank have a job, but their paycheck doesn't buy them food. And while the Liberals keep telling us that they're going to bring in a school food program. Since they made that promise, children going to food banks have doubled to 700,000 a year. A month. 700,000 children a month are relying on food banks. And hanging over every farm, every factory, every trucker who moves goods, every person who has anything in a modern civilized life is the massive and growing industrial carbon tax. Yes, it is still there. It's true, the government has paused the consumer, the visible carbon tax, thanks to conservative pressure. But they have maintained and in this budget decided to increase the industrial carbon tax, which punishes those who produce food and those who build homes. Let me quote directly from the food professor who warned, "It's not gone. The industrial carbon tax, the worst part, is still there. Only the consumer portion was reduced to zero. Processors and growers shoulder heavy costs. The industrial carbon tax remains. Pay attention. It continues to erode competitiveness in the agri-food sector. And most damning of all, the U.S. produces food more efficiently and more cheaply than we do. The cost gap is growing, not shrinking. When experts are practically begging the government to stop harming food production with high taxes on every aspect of the food chain, then this is a matter of ideology, not of human need. And let us be very clear what this tax actually is. It is a levy on the steel and the tractor that rolls across our fields. Every grain dryer that preserves and dries the harvest. Every greenhouse heater that helps vegetables grow in the winter. Every truck that ships food from farm to table. Every bag of fertilizer, every pallet of lumber, every sack of cement, every pound of steel, every piece of rebar, every roofing truss, and every load of drywall becomes more expensive when you apply a carbon tax on the things that Canadians make. It might be a well-concealed tax, but it is an extremely expensive tax, one that the Prime Minister plans to more than double over the next several years and keep increasing even after that. It is no wonder, therefore, that the government is actually increasing food prices in Canada at faster rate than in the United States. Now, it's not just food, it's housing. The carbon tax applies, the industrial carbon tax applies on everything that housing makes. And to give a little bit of chump change back to a very small number of people who happen to meet the exact and highly limited definition, the government has provided an unworkable GST rebate, only going to first-time buyers who buy new homes. Here's the problem with that. The Venn diagram of new buyer and new home is next to nothing. New buyers typically buy resale homes. Those never had taxes on them in the first place. Typically, new homes are bought by second, third, fourth, and fifth-time home buyers because, of course, new homes are more expensive, and you have to have already been in the market. That's right. So the Prime Minister has successfully engineered a rebate that 95% of Canadians are ineligible to receive. It's basically worthless to almost all of the people of the country. Meanwhile, he made a promise that he would help the municipalities cut their development taxes in half. That promise goes unkept, and so today, in this province of Ontario, 30% of the cost of a new home is taxes, taxes, and taxes. And the Prime Minister has not removed or eliminated those taxes despite the promise that he made in the election. And let me quote, therefore, Scott Anderson, Chief Executive Officer of the Ontario Home Builders Association, and I quote, "The government's inaction will put 40,000 jobs in Ontario at risk, from architects and engineers to trades and sub-trades across the residential construction sector. The estimated direct and indirect economic impact from these job losses on Ontario's economy is $5.3 billion. Meanwhile, our tradespeople are losing their jobs because homes are not getting built. Home building is collapsing after the Prime Minister promised that he would double it. Yesterday's budget makes the problem worse. We're failing to remove the taxes that were already there while piling on the new and more expensive industrial carbon tax. But what is most galling of all is the wordplay. Bonjour tout le monde. Is the wordplay. that they use to justify it all. They say, we're not spending, we're investing. This sounds like a new buzzword, but it's actually very old. The Prime Minister Justin Trudeau claimed that he was going to invest when he promised a small deficit of $10 billion that would be gone in 3 years. Remember that? He said the budget would balance itself. Now, I don't say that derisively because he actually had a well-thought-out chain of steps that he believed would happen. He said, if you borrow money and you spend it in the economy, it will cause economic growth and investment that will then go back into tax revenues and the budget will balance itself. That is, he didn't express it in those sorts of terms, but that's what he meant. And that's exactly what the Prime Minister today is promising. He's claiming that deficits can be converted into investment. Well, there's 3 reasons why that never happens. First of all, and by the way, you don't have to take my word for it. The investment numbers themselves are clear. Since the government started adding new debt, investment in Canada has collapsed. We had the worst investment per capita of any country in the G7 and the worst drop in Canadian history as the Liberals doubled deficits. So there is a negative correlation between deficits and investment. Why? First, everything comes from something. Nothing comes from nothing. Governments get deficit financing only 2 ways. They print it or they borrow it. If they print it, they increase the money supply faster than the things money buys and you get inflation. We've seen that. Or they borrow it out of the marketplace. That somebody has to lend it, meaning the money that is lent to the government cannot be put to other more productive uses. This is called the crowding out effect. That's what economists call it. It's when government borrows money out of the economy, depriving the private sector of the investment that it needs for more productive activities. And therefore, when government borrows out of the economy in order to spend back into the economy, there is no net increase in economic activity. It is simply redirected to another purpose, away from productive private sector investment towards unproductive government spending. And so you take money away from factories, pipelines, warehouses, tech research, and other income-generating assets to give it to bureaucracy that ultimately devours the money and never produces a return. Now, we saw this. The most incredible example, of course, was in Israel, which was running massive deficits in the 1990s and paying out 6% interest on its government bonds. This starved the Israeli economy of investment. When the government finally stopped spending, balanced its budget, investment in the tech sector exploded because bondholders were forced to actually invest in productive R&D rather than passively handing their money over for a government-guaranteed return. And as a result of paying down debt, they unlocked more investment, and there was a venture capital boom that meant that right now Israel has more companies trading on the NASDAQ exchange than does all of Europe, a continent with 75 times more people. So if we want to unlock investment, one of the things we need to stop doing is borrowing that investment out of the economy. Instead, leave it in the hands of productive private sector investment that will grow and expand our economy. Madam Speaker, the reason why governments deficits don't produce more investment and economic activity as well is because people are not stupid. They know that today's deficits are tomorrow's taxes. And so businesses and individuals tend to hoard their money in anticipation of future tax increases when they see that there are large-scale deficits in the present. This has been borne out by research by the IMF, which found that high-debt countries like Canada with high deficits tend to have households holding back on investments of their own, and the same goes for business. The only reason why money-making projects do not happen in Canada is not because we aren't spending and borrowing enough money. It's because the government is standing in the way of those very same projects. What it needs to do is get out of the way. Get out of the way. Get out of the way and let mines be dug in 2 or 3 years approval time. Get out of the way, approve pipelines that can go to the coast so that we no longer have to give all of our oil to the Americans at discounts. Get out of the way, grant rapid permits for LNG plants, massive plants that are $30 or $40 billion, totally funded by the private sector and massively profitable because the price for a million metric British thermal units in Canada is $3, where in Asia it's over $10. We can make enormous amounts of money if the government will get out of the way and let these things happen. But of course, that would be no fun for the government. Nobody wants written on their tombstone, here lies politician Smith. He got out of the way. They all want to say he built this thing, he built that thing with other people's money, right? And so it serves the ego of the politician to take the money out of the economy and put it back somewhere else, even though it costs enormous amounts, or to block this economic activity only to subsidize that same economic activity. You know, it's like the great President Ronald Reagan said, if a liberal sees something that moves, they tax it. If it keeps moving, they regulate it. And when it stops moving, they subsidize it. Why not just do none of the above? Why not just get out of the way and let free people, entrepreneurs, workers, unlock their incredible natural potential to build, make, move, fix, develop, and invent things for all of us? That would be a much more sensible way to get investment. The Liberals have offered us nothing but managed decline. We want national renewal. They've offered excuses. We, as Conservatives, offer results. They offer debt and drift. We offer discipline and direction. They offer scarcity. We offer possibility. They offer a failed past. We offer a bright future. They trust only in themselves to run the lives of other people. We trust in the Canadian people to make their own decisions for themselves. That is the country that we want to take. We have a very clear plan to do it. We want to lower the taxes on work, investment, home building, and energy. Let's cut income taxes for real, not $83 a year, a real income tax cut that will actually boost take-home pay and reward hard work. Let's get rid of taxes on energy, like the industrial carbon tax. Let's get rid of all taxes on home building, which would be enough to reduce home building costs in some provinces by as much as $200,000. Let's get rid of investment. Let's get rid of taxes on investment. You want more investment? Stop taxing investment. No capital gains tax for anybody who reinvests in Canada. That would be a way to get lots of investment going. We need to unlock and reward the entrepreneurship of this country. But right now, our entrepreneurs are like eagles locked in a bird cage. They can't go anywhere because they're hemmed in and blocked from flying by high government taxes and heavy regulatory burden. We want to liberate Canadians to spread their wings, their economic wings, and fly. We want this to be the most rewarding place for people to work, start a business, build a home, dig a mine, set up a factory, make stuff again. That is the country that we envision, Madam Speaker. We want sound money so that when hardworking waitresses and assembly line workers get their paycheck and put it in the bank account, it doesn't lose its value with each passing day. That means we have to stop the violence the government is doing to our money. Stop the money printing. Get the Bank of Canada back to its job of core low inflation and and ultimately address the real foundational problem, which is that the government is spending money it does not have on things we do not need. Let's control the government spending so that the Canadian people can have strong, sound money again. The Liberals want a country where the government is rich and the people are poor. We want the people to live with abundance and opportunity. And that, by the way, means we need to unlock energy. There has been no history in the world of defeating poverty that has not involved low cost and abundant energy. We, on the Conservative side, want to unlock the trillions of dollars of oil and gas and uranium and hydroelectricity, our water, our rocks, our molecules, our atoms used for our benefit here in a sovereign and strong Canada.
Hear, hear.
That is our vision. This is a bright and optimistic vision, and it's one that I think is going to inspire our young people who are in so desperate need of hope. And I want to say to our youth today, we as Conservatives see you. We see the heavy bags under your eyes as you work that third shift in a single day, or you're off to drop off Uber Eats again because you need it to pay your rent. We hear the stress and the strain in your voice as you wonder how you're going to pay the rent. We hear also the tone of hopelessness as you wonder whether you'll ever be able to start a family. We hear you, we see you, we are with you, and we are here to offer you homes, jobs, and hope. Our young people will once again be rewarded for their ambition, their hard work, their ingenious activity, their contribution to our country. Their hard work will once again be liberated to their own benefit and to the benefit of all Canadians. We are not here to tell our youth who have done nothing but sacrifice since their teenage years that they need to sacrifice more at the altar of a costly, confiscatory, and expensive Liberal government. The hard work of our young people should go to their benefit. This should be a land of promise, freedom, and opportunity for our youth. And so we reiterate that what this country needs is an affordable budget for an affordable life for all of our people, in a country that rewards hard work, unlocks entrepreneurs, a nation not of bureaucrats and busybodies, of rulers and rule makers, of gatekeepers and grandees, but instead a nation of adventurers and artists, of entrepreneurs and explorers, of workers and warriors, of pioneers and patriots, all united to restore the promise of Canada that anyone from anywhere can do anything, that hard work gets you a great life on a safe street in a beautiful house under our proud flag, Canada First, Canada Forever. Merci beaucoup. With their own hands. You're going to be swinging a lot more hammers and building a lot more homes very soon, because we have a Canada First plan that is going to get it done and bring it home. But unfortunately, I have to begin with some bad news. In nearby Ajax, a Muslim woman was recently attacked at the Ajax library. She was totally innocent, and she was attacked by a monster, a nasty perpetrator who once again had been released. This is a person who had been released after threatening people with a machete, but after she pleaded guilty, she was sentenced not to jail, but probation. This is the increasingly common story after the lost Liberal decade of crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder in our streets. Electing the Liberals to a fourth term in power will only mean that crime and chaos will run rampant here and everywhere across the country. What we need is a government that puts law-abiding Canadians first for a change by making sure that repeat offenders become permanently ineligible for bail, probation, parole, or house arrest. It will be jail, not bail. Jail, not bail when I'm Prime Minister. Yeah, you agree with that? Yeah. Absolutely. And thank you very much to the people of Vaughan, great people in this wonderful community. I want to thank George and Nicole, who are legends in the home building industry, who are hosting us today in their wonderful development. This community has so much potential that has so far, though, been unrealized because of the lost Liberal decade that has doubled housing costs. I want to talk today about my plan to change this and to bring home safety and affordability to communities just like this one. Now, before I do that, though, I want to just say that I want to challenge Mark Carney to show up for the debate at TVA in Quebec. He's running away and hiding because he believes that he's too weak to defend the lost Liberal decade or explain why he thinks Liberals deserve a fourth term. Let's have a debate in French where we put together the choice. Either a fourth Liberal term after costs and crime have gone up and our economy has gone down under the American thumb, or putting Canada first for a change with a new Conservative government that will build the homes. I'll even pay Mr. Carney's fee so that he can show up. We'll take that excuse away from him. Conservatives will even pay the fee to bring him out. If he's not afraid, and by the way, if he is afraid to have the debate, how is he going to have the courage to stand up against Donald Trump? It's going to take someone who's strong enough to do that, and if he's not afraid, then he'll show up at that debate. I'm not afraid, and I'm ready to enjoy that debate with him. And one of the things we will be debating is the Liberal housing crisis, because after the lost Liberal decade, housing costs have doubled. They've risen faster than in any other G7 country. Toronto and Vancouver are now the most expensive housing markets in all of North America, worse than New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Seattle. In fact, many cities that have more income, more people, and less land have much more affordable homes. Before the lost Liberal decade, it took 25 years to pay off a mortgage. Now in Toronto, it takes 29 years to save up for a down payment. Before the Liberal lost decade, the average house price in Canada was $450,000, an almost laughably small sum of money. That was when I was housing minister, and those were the results we have. But today, if you live in Vancouver, you need to earn $250,000 to get qualified to buy the average house. Here in Toronto, it's $220,000. Liberals caused the housing crisis by inflating demand with out-of-control immigration and money printing, and blocking supply with taxes and bureaucracy that stop home builders. Now, it's very interesting that the worst housing inflation of the lost Liberal decade happened after Mark Carney became Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. It was in 2020 when that began, and the housing costs in the 2 years after Carney took over as the economic advisor went from $533,000 to $835,000. And in case there's any doubt about this, let me quote from the Financial Post headline in 2017. Canada's housing bubble can be traced back to Mark Carney and his bias for easy money policy. It's not just the Financial Post, it's London's Daily Telegraph, which comments on Mark Carney's time as the governor there, where he caused a housing crisis in that country. They said that he had the, quote, reverse Midas touch. The former, quote, the former governor of the Bank of England has left a trail of destruction behind his glossy jobs. The Telegraph also reported that just as he did when he kick-started the housing crisis in Canada, Mr. Carney was once again printed too much money in the wake of the financial crisis. And as housing prices ballooned, economists criticized him for a, quote, missed opportunity to make homes more affordable. Quoting again the Telegraph, by the time he left office, Carney had created a mess which his successors have struggled to clean up. But Carney wasn't finished wrecking the housing market at that point. He brought his knack for inflating housing costs to Brookfield. In a report by the Office of the Canadian Federal Housing Advocate from 2022, Brookfield was criticized as being one of the leading North American companies engaged in predatory financialization of the real estate market. This is when a giant corporation like Brookfield buys up rental properties, makes a few cosmetic changes, and then raises rents substantially with the knowledge that residents cannot move and will be forced to absorb the costs. He's still invested in Brookfield, which profits from predatory financialization. How is Mark Carney ever going to combat greedy corporations ripping off our working class when he's profiting from it and when he still has those investments knowingly? That's why it's time for Mr. Carney to come clean about all of his investments, reveal his conflicts, which he admits that he has. And instead, we need a Prime Minister who will stand up for the Canadian people and not for those who profit off of inflation. After the lost Liberal decade, for the first time in the history, the dream of home ownership is lost for a generation. At least lost for now. In BC and Ontario, the cost of new home, 30% of the cost of a new home, though, is just taxes. More money for a new home goes to bureaucrats in office buildings than goes to these builders who actually build the homes. It's incredible. And the people who build the homes cannot afford to live in them. That is fundamentally unjust. and it will only get worse with a fourth Liberal term. And home building is down. Toronto construction was down 38% last year. Vancouver down 16%. Ottawa down 21%. Winnipeg down 7%. And it's not going to get better after the fourth term. Today, the worst immigration minister in the history of the country, who also happens to be the worst housing minister in the history of the country, Sean Fraser, announced that after 10 years helping bring about the lost Liberal decade, he will be running again for Mark Carney. So you're going to have the same Liberal ministers, the same Liberal MPs, the same Liberal strategists making the same Liberal promises as they did to bring about the housing crisis if they're elected for a fourth term. Mr. Fraser was the one that brought the Century Initiative into immigration policy, a policy designed to increase our population to 100 million. With this massive uncontrolled population growth, he helped contribute to creating this crisis in the first place, and now Mark Carney and the Liberals say that he should be back. Now, the reason all of this is the reason why I announced about 7 or 8 months ago that a Conservative government would put our country first by eliminating GST on all homes up to $1 million. I then brought that idea to the House of Commons in a motion, and 100% of Liberal MPs voted against it. They unanimously opposed the idea, and they could have done it. They could have implemented it. Mr. Carney even could have implemented it last week before he called the election. They did not. If they're elected to a fourth term, they will never do it. But the problem has gotten even worse since I made that announcement. Now, $1 million is not enough to get the average home in many markets. It's almost surreal, isn't it? You know, 10 years ago, $1 million would have got you a castle on a mountain overlooking a valley of gold. 10 years ago, $1 million home was for the extremely rich. Now, these homes like this, often go for more than $1 million. It is astonishing. It's almost hallucinogenic how badly the Liberals have destroyed our housing market, and with it, the Canadian promise. But we have to adapt. As Liberals make problems worse, Conservatives push further to make things better. And that's why, in acknowledging the Liberal housing crisis has worsened since October, I'm announcing that a new Conservative government will put Canada first by taking GST, the federal sales tax, off of all homes under $1.3 million. We will axe the tax so that every Canadian can buy a new home tax-free. That will spark 360,000 extra homes every single year, boost our GDP by $2.5 billion, create tens of thousands of jobs for our builders right behind me, and also for our forestry workers who will get back out into our forests, harvesting our wonderful lumbers, turning towering timbers into 2x4s that will uphold these wonderful homes. We'll build Canadian homes with Canadian lumber, Canadian trades workers doing the job. This will mean a savings of up to $65,000 on a new home, or $3,000 less in annualized mortgage payments. Real savings for Canadians will be also compounded as we incentivize municipalities to free up land, speed up permits, and cut development charges to build 15% more per year. We will sell off 15% of federal buildings and land to build homes. We will reject the Liberal Century Initiative that would increase our population to 100 million. And instead, we will cap immigration so that population growth never exceeds the growth in the housing stock. We will also cut income taxes by 15% so that the average working family has an extra $2,000 to make their mortgage payments and afford a home. After a lost Liberal decade, with costs and crime up and our economy down under the American thumb, Canada cannot afford a fourth Liberal term. It is time for us to put Canada first for a change, with a new Conservative government that will remove gatekeepers, cut taxes, build homes, build millions of homes. A government that will axe taxes, build homes, unleash resources, stop crime, and bring home the jobs that the Liberals sent south to Trump. We will stand up to the American president from a position of strength. more important than anything, we will bring home the Canadian promise. We will once again make this a country where hard work gets you a great life in a beautiful home on a safe street protected by brave troops under a proud flag. Canada first. Let's bring it home. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now take questions from the floor.
Karanjit from Vedanta, good morning. My question might not be directly related to today's announcement, but it's regarding affordable healthcare.
Yes.
Earlier, Mr. Jagmeet Singh and recently Mr. Mark Carney stated that policies like dental care and pharmacare would be at risk if you became Prime Minister. Given your past opposition to expanding federal healthcare programs, do you plan to roll back these initiatives if elected?
We will protect these programs, and no one who has them will lose them. And, I would note, let's go through them one at a time. We will make sure that nobody loses their dental care. We will also, on child care, we all believe that there should be more affordable child care in this country. The Liberals, though, have imposed a massive top-down bureaucratic system that has actually meant 120,000 fewer kids have daycare spaces than when they first created the program. A third more families are struggling to get child care spaces than when the Liberals first created this program. Now they're making even more promises on the eve of an election, and in order to get a fourth term in power after the lost Liberal decade. Why do we have worse child care today than when the Liberals took office? Because they've imposed top-down, government knows best rules that have shut down private daycares that don't meet the government knows best model, the one-size-fits-all model, and most of the money has been consumed by bureaucracy. So while honoring the agreements on childcare with the provinces, we're going to give more freedom and flexibility to parents, providers, and provinces to support the childcare of all the kids. Why would we leave? Why do the Liberals want to leave kids out in the cold if their parents are night shift workers or work on weekends? Why do they want to leave kids out in the cold if their parents have opted for private childcare or home-based childcare? We should support all childcare options by having more flexibility. Then parents can decide which childcare options they favor. Provinces can decide how to deliver those services on the front line with more flexibility and freedom for parents, provinces, and providers. We'll massively expand the availability of childcare and reduce the bureaucracy that stands in the way. Thank you very much.
En français.
One other thing on, you mentioned health care. I mean, after the lost Liberal decade, we have 6 million people without a family doctor, and wait lines are longer than ever. We have an obvious solution. There's the low-hanging fruit here. We have 20,000 immigrant doctors, 32,000 immigrant nurses who can't work. 85% of Filipino nurses in Canada are banned from working in nursing. This is nuts. When I went to get my eye surgery, because my glasses fell off, so I needed eye surgery, the technician there, he flies to Dubai and does 10 days back-to-back of surgeries there as a full eye doctor. But here in Canada, we won't let him work as a doctor. Then I walked around this, when I went back a year later for my checkup, I found out there were 5 full doctors at this facility who are immigrants to Canada that have to work as technicians when we have a doctor shortage. And this fellow, he actually, is it that Emirati eyeballs are different than Canadian eyeballs? Why isn't he able to do eye surgery on the Emiratis but not on the Canadians? Well, the answer is there's 7 years of bureaucracy he'd have to go through. In Toronto, they say if you have a heart attack, don't call 911. Call Uber, because the driver is probably a doctor. Why isn't he a doctor serving patients? The answer is we need a blue seal. We have it in the trades. It's called the red seal. You can take a test, prove you're qualified up to a Canadian standard, our high standards, prove you're hitting our standard. We give you a license and then get the provinces to recognize that license. so that we can have thousands more doctors, nurses, and also architects, engineers, and others. That is the simplest way to get our hospitals filled up with more doctors today and reduce these wait lines. Donc, en français, on va faire en sorte que tous les soins dentaires, tous les gens qui reçoivent les soins dentaires vont le garder. On va aussi, en termes de garde d'enfants, après la décennie perdue des libéraux, il y a 120 000 plus d'enfants qui... excuse-moi, 120 000 moins d'enfants qui n'ont pas de place aux garderies. Et il y a un tiers de plus de familles qui ont de difficultés à trouver un soin pour leurs enfants. Pourquoi? Parce que les libéraux ont imposé la paperasse et les règles qui empêchent les fournisseurs privés et les autres options communautaires. Ils ont dépensé l'argent sur la bureaucratie. Moi, je vais donner plus de liberté et de flexibilité aux provinces, aux familles et aux fournisseurs de garde d'enfants de le faire dans leur façon, incluant supporter des familles où les parents travaillent la nuit ou les fins de semaine, incluant les garderies privées et incluant les garderies aux maisons. C'est en ayant plus de flexibilité et de liberté pour les provinces et les parents que nous aurons un meilleur garde d'enfants. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, Per. I'm Surya from Y Media.
Yes, sir.
So, Globe and Mail has done a story on election interference on Conservative leadership campaign. What are your comments on that?
Well, first of all, let's quote from that Globe and Mail article. I'm going to quote here. CSIS also did not have evidence that Mr. Poilievre or members of his inner circle were aware of these alleged actions. Then I'm going to quote the Hogue Commission, and I quote, "The Commission heard testimony about allegations of the government India interference in the Conservative Party leadership race. CSIS witnesses noted that they had no reason to believe the impacted candidates would have been aware of the alleged support." Let's be honest. I won the leadership fair and square. Even my political competitors, like Mr. Patrick Brown, have publicly testified under oath that that was the case. But I'm glad that the Liberals put this attack out today. Really glad. Because there's something that's really been worrying me. After Justin Trudeau named Mark Carney his economic advisor, giving him massive power over public policy in Canada, Mr. Carney went over for meetings in Beijing where he just had secret talks with the deputy governor of the Chinese Central Bank. 2 weeks later, Brookfield got a $250 million loan. What did they talk about? What did Mr. Carney in his role as Trudeau's economic advisor offer China? Why would he be having secret meetings with top government-controlled bankers about getting a $250 million loan while he was supposed to be acting in Canada's interest as the Prime Minister's economic advisor? Why would he be collaborating with a hostile foreign regime that we have since learned executed 4 Canadians and took numerous Canadians hostage for a lengthy period of time? And given that Mr. Carney knows that he still owns massive financial interests in Brookfield, which owes $250 million to a Chinese state-controlled bank, how do we know he's not going to act against our interests in favor of his financial interests? Why didn't he stand in front of this microphone and confess to Canadians that he owes the Chinese government that kind of money? Is this why he's covering up his financial interests? And given that China has murdered our people, taken our people hostage, how is he ever going to stand up to foreign interference when he is so financially compromised? We have never in our history had a weak, out-of-touch leader so terribly compromised and conflicted, whose interests go against our national interests. And I call on Mr. Carney right now to come before a microphone today and explain if this loan is still in place and if he still has those Brookfield assets that he had up until a few weeks ago. Because we cannot trust someone. Could you imagine, while you're supposed to be advising Canada's Prime Minister on the well-being of our economy, going to a foreign regime that had executed Canadian citizens, taken Canadians hostage, that it had already been public that they had interfered in multiple elections. They've done incursions into our northern waters. Mark Carney will never be able to protect our national interests because he has massive financial conflicts of interest overseas. What we need now is not to give the Liberals a fourth term with a weak and compromised leader. What we need is a Prime Minister who will put Canada first for a change. Oui. Merci pour la question. La Commission, premièrement, laissez-moi citer du Globe and Mail. Les services de renseignement n'ont pas, j'essaie de traduire parce que je l'ai en anglais, mais n'ont aucune preuve que M. Poilievre ni des membres de son équipe étaient au courant des allégations en question. Et la Commission Hogue a dit aussi que les témoignages qu'elle a entendus là-dessus ont montré on montrait aucune preuve que le Parti conservateur ni les candidats en question étaient au courant de l'ingérence de l'Inde. Mais soyons clairs, j'ai gagné la course à la chefferie parce que j'avais le support. C'était une victoire massive. J'avais pas besoin de l'aide de personne. Et M. Brown, qui s'est présenté contre moi, a témoigné dans le Parlement que l'ingérence présumée n'a eu aucun effet sur le résultat. Mais je suis très heureux que M. Carney et les libéraux ont donné cette attaque aujourd'hui. C'est intéressant, après une décennie perdue, des libéraux ont permis au Canada de devenir un pays où l'ingérence étrangère est massive et visible à travers le Canada. Et maintenant, ils essaient d'instrumentaliser cet enjeu afin de gagner un 4e mandat. Mais je suis très heureux qu'ils ont fait ça aujourd'hui parce que ça me permet de m'adresser à une préoccupation très grave que j'ai depuis longtemps. Quelques mois après que M. Trudeau a nommé Mark Carney comme son conseiller économique, M. Carney est allé en Chine, à Beijing, pour rencontrer le vice-président de la Banque centrale de la Chine. 2 semaines plus tard, Brookfield, l'entreprise dont il était le président, a reçu un prêt de 250 millions de dollars. Comment ça se fait que maintenant, M. Carney a toujours investi dans une entreprise qui doit 250 millions de dollars à une banque contrôlée par le gouvernement de la Chine? Comment ça se fait que M. Carney a utilisé son influence politique pour gagner accès au gouvernement étranger, surtout un gouvernement qu'il savait s'était ingéré dans notre politique, un gouvernement qui avait tué nos citoyens et pris en otage nos citoyens, et lui, il pensait que c'était approprié, en même temps qu'avoir un rôle formel de conseiller notre pays, notre premier ministre à l'égard de l'économie, d'y aller faire affaire. Toujours, il est investi à Brookfield. Toujours, il doit le gouvernement chinois. Comment est-ce que Mark Carney va protéger le Canada contre l'ingérence étrangère en même temps qu'il est investi dans une entreprise, toujours, qui a un prêt de 250 millions de dollars? C'est une menace pour notre pays. Il a un conflit d'intérêts. M. Carney devrait venir devant vous aujourd'hui afin d'expliquer tous ses investissements et pourquoi il a travaillé contre les intérêts du Canada pour son intérêt personnel. Nous n'avons pas besoin d'un 4e mandat libéral. Nous avons besoin d'un gouvernement
un nouveau gouvernement conservateur qui va mettre le Canada d'abord pour faire changement.
Thank you. Next question.
Brian Lilly, Toronto Sun. Last night you got an endorsement from the Boilermakers Union, a union that has never endorsed a federal Conservative leader. You've got a bunch of gentlemen behind you in the trades, and I understand tonight in Hamilton you'll be getting...
not suits.
You'll be getting a lot more union leadership showing up tonight.
Yes.
Is this part of a plan that you've got to turn blue-collar workers blue voters?
Yes. But actually, the truth is that, these are the people who literally build our country. And they realize that after the lost Liberal decade, they can't even afford a home. We've had global elites like Mark Carney and the Liberals sell out our industrial base to send jobs to China and the United States while leaving our workers behind. The people who build our homes cannot afford to live in them. Carbon taxes make it impossible for people to pay to gas their pickup truck. And if these guys want to go out for a weekend of hunting, well, the Liberals want to ban their hunting rifle too. The good, decent, common sense values of the people who build this country are exactly what we need to fix everything that's broken. When it comes to the Boilermakers, they are very worried that Mark Carney will dismantle our energy sector through his net zero extremism, and they want to have a government that will put Canada first for a change by approving nuclear power plants, pipelines, mines, LNG plants, axing the carbon tax, the full carbon tax, including on Canadian industry. That is how we're going to bring home powerful paychecks for these incredible men and women who are coming to my support. And I will say this as well. We also need to send the message to our youth that the best jobs in the world are trades jobs. We need boots, not suits. We're going to bring back the $4,000 apprenticeship grant that the Liberals are cancelling at the end of this month. We are going to put in 10 times as much resources into union training halls to train 350,000 young apprenticeships so that they can be apprentices who will become journey people. They will be building homes, building pipelines, digging mines, moving our goods, literally building this country with their own hands. They will join with us to bring home our jobs and make us strong again so we can stand up to the Americans and put our country first. Thank you. All right. OK, merci beaucoup. Bonne question. Je suis très, très honoré d'avoir l'appui des Boilermakers. Comment Radio-Canada? Pouvez-vous m'aider, Boilermaker?
Très bonne question.
Très bonne question, merci. C'est moi qui pose des questions.
On parle de Boilermaker des fournaires?
Oui, ils travaillent dans les centrales nucléaires. On va avoir une meilleure traduction. Je m'excuse. Les Boilermakers. Les Boilermakers, on a besoin de plus de Boilermakers et je suis très heureux d'avoir leur appui. J'adore les syndicats en métier parce qu'ils ne représentent pas seulement les travailleurs, mais ils les forment. Ils donnent les emplois. Et les travailleurs veulent supporter notre plan pour mettre le Canada d'abord, y compris en approuvant les centrales nucléaires, des usines de gaz naturel, les pipelines, éliminant le taxe carbone, couper les impôts pour rembourser le travail et surtout donner les ressources pour former 350 000 plus de jeunes apprentis dans les métiers avec la contribution, la bourse de 4 000 $ pour chaque apprenti qui va être mis en place selon notre plan Canada d'abord. Il nous faut des bottes et non pas des cravates pour bâtir notre pays et c'est ce que nous allons faire comme conservateurs. Donc, je remercie fortement ce syndicat. I want to thank this wonderful union, the Boilermakers. They're one of the greatest unions in Canada, and I am deeply touched to have them on side. And I hope there will be many more incredible trade unions that train up our people and build up our country to put Canada first. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now take a question from the call-in line, and this will be the final question.
Thank you.
Raphaël Pierrot, Journal de Montréal.
Première chose, d'abord sur les allégations d'ingérence étrangère, je voulais savoir, M. Carney est revenu aujourd'hui en disant que vous n'avez pas encore de code de sécurité. Concernant l'allégation spécifique, je voulais savoir si détenir cette clause de sécurité, faire le processus actuel, ça vous aiderait à faire la lumière là-dessus. Et sur le même sujet, est-ce que vous pensez que M. Chandra Arya, c'est lié, le fait qu'il a été écarté de Nepean, que c'est lié à aux allégations d'ingérence étrangère? Et finalement, sur le débat en français pour le face-à-face de TVA, je veux savoir, est-ce que vous croyez l'excuse de monsieur du Parti libéral, en fait, qui ont un malaise avec le fait de payer 75 000 $ pour participer au débat? Merci beaucoup.
I think there was 3 questions in one. He's trying to get a bulk discount here. Yeah, I'll give him 6 answers for 3 questions. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup de vos questions. Premièrement, j'ai déjà eu mon code de sécurité, mais ce que je ne vais pas faire, c'est permettre le gouvernement de me taire. Ils ne veulent pas que je sois capable de parler librement de ces enjeux-là en me forçant de signer de faire un engagement de secret. Je ne travaille pas pour le gouvernement, je suis le chef de l'opposition. Et ce que les libéraux veulent faire, c'est de m'empêcher de parler ouvertement. Par exemple, s'ils me disent quelque chose qui est de peu d'importance en privé par rapport à la Chine, ils peuvent après ça dire « Oh, vous ne pouvez pas parler de la Chine parce que maintenant vous êtes briefé et vous ne pouvez pas partager rien. » Alors c'est ça leur jeu. Et on sait qu'ils sont en train de politiser ça. C'est pour ça qu'ils ont fait une fuite politique pendant les élections. Mais la réalité, c'est que c'est M. Carney qui doit expliquer comment il va défendre les intérêts du Canada en même temps qu'il est allé en Chine recevoir un prêt de 250 millions de dollars pour son entreprise d'un gouvernement hostile qui avait tué nos citoyens, qui s'est ingéré dans notre pays et qui avait pris en otage nos propres citoyens. Les Canadiens ne peuvent pas faire confiance à M. Carney parce qu'il travaille toujours contre les intérêts de notre pays et pour l'intérêt de son compte de banque. Donc, je pense qu'il devrait publier tous ses intérêts et tous les engagements que son entreprise, dans laquelle il est toujours investi, a avec les gouvernements hostiles à l'étranger. Deuxièmement, je n'ai aucune information par rapport à M. Arya, donc c'est aux libéraux d'expliquer leur raisonnement. Troisièmement, je vais parler... en passant, ils vont simplement dire qu'ils ne peuvent pas en parler parce que c'est tout des secrets. Donc, il veut me faire la même chose, me forcer de ne pas parler de ces enjeux-là. Mais heureusement, je suis assez sage pour ne pas jouer leur jeu. Troisièmement, sur le débat, oui, Monsieur Carney, il fait des excuses parce qu'il a peur. Il est trop fragile pour faire des débats. Il est un chef faible qui mène un gouvernement faible, qui a rendu notre économie faible face aux Américains. Et si M. Carney est trop fragile et trop faible pour faire un débat en français chez TVA, il sera trop fragile et trop faible pour faire face à Donald Trump. En passant, je suis prêt à payer les frais pour les libéraux, donc cette excuse n'existe plus. Et j'invite Mme Elizabeth May de participer dans le débat, donc cette excuse n'existe plus. Problème réglé. J'ai hâte de voir M. Carney chez le débat. Est-ce qu'on devrait un 4e mandat libéral ou est-ce qu'on veut un nouveau gouvernement conservateur qui va mettre le Canada d'abord? 3 questions. One, on the security clearance, I've already had a security clearance. What I will not do is because I was a cabinet minister, so I've already been cleared. What I will not do is commit to the oath of secrecy that the Liberals want to impose on me. They don't want me to be able to speak about these matters. So they bring me into a dark room and they'll say, we're going to give you a little bit of breadcrumbs of intel, and then we'll tell you you can't talk about any of this stuff anymore. So for example, if they'd given me some kind of cursory briefing on China, then they would say, oh, you can't go talk about the fact that Mark Carney went off to Beijing and had meetings where he had secret talks with top government banking officials, after which a government bank gave his company a $250,000 loan, a loan that his company still owes, and a company in which he's still invested, meaning that he is the most compromised and conflicted leader our country has ever seen. He did this after seeing that China had interfered in 2 consecutive elections. He did this after seeing China take 2 of our people hostage. He did this after knowing that China had made incursions into our waters. How will Mark Carney ever protect Canada against Beijing's incursions into our territory, its interference in our country, or it's taking our jobs and our industrial base away when he owes them so much? And I won't be silenced on any of those issues. I look forward to hearing Mark Carney's answers, and I hope that Canadian media actually starts asking him some questions about the nature of Brookfield's holdings. It really is incredible. The media has had some of this information, and I look forward to them actually asking questions. We have a guy who's prime minister who's never been elected to anything. He's the most unscrutinized leader our country has ever had, and he's by far the most conflicted. We're putting it out ourselves from now on, by the way. This is a guy whose company denied coal miners his insurance arm denied coal miners their payments when they were dying of black lung in the States. They lost in court. The company lost in court. How is he ever going to stand up for working class people when that's the track record he has? He used renovictions, predatory financialization of real estate. How is he ever going to fix our housing crisis when that is his background? I've said in the past that he's just as bad as Justin Trudeau. Frankly, he's much worse, and he's much more conflicted, and he's going to be held accountable. On the debate, well, his excuses are changing from day to day. Mark Carney says he doesn't want to debate because there's a fee. Well, I'll pay the fee. He says that he doesn't want to debate because Elizabeth May has not been invited. Well, I'll invite her. So let's invite Elizabeth May. I'll pay the fee, so Mark Carney can't afford to pay $75,000. Conservatives are generous. We'll pay it for him. But if he's still too weak and fragile to debate at TVA, then he's too weak and fragile to stand up to Donald Trump and for our country. The debate is simple. Do we want a 4th Liberal term after the lost Liberal decade, or do we want a new Conservative government that will put Canada first for a change? Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes today's press conference.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. Great to see you. Merci beaucoup.
Well done.
Merci beaucoup.
For the ones who build it, fix it, and maintain it, there's Grainger. You can count on Grainger for industrial quality products delivered fast, and you'll have access to experts ready to answer your questions. Call or click Grainger.ca today. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us today, and welcome to Taliset. Je m'appelle Yasser Naqvi, je suis le député de Ottawa Centre. It's a great honor for me to serve the community of Ottawa Centre, where we are gathered here today. And I'll be emceeing this really important announcement. We've got quite a few speakers and some really important, hardworking folks who have joined us today, and I would like to acknowledge them and welcome them. The Honorable Joel Lightbound, who's the Minister of Government Transformation, Public Works and Procurement. Bienvenue, le ministre. The Honorable David McGuinty, who's the Minister of National Defense. Welcome, David. The Honorable Stephen Fuhr, who's the Secretary of State for Defense Procurement. Welcome, Stephen. I also like to acknowledge Member of Parliament Jenna Sutz, represents Canada. Welcome, Jenna. Member of Parliament Par Baines, who represents a riding in British Columbia, Richmond East, Steveston. Welcome, Parm. Our very own mayor, Your Worship, Mark Sutcliffe. Welcome, sir. I also like to welcome Daniel Goldenberg, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Telesat Corporation, who's hosting us today. Thank you, Dan. And Mike Greenlee, who's the Chief Executive Officer of MDA Space. Welcome, sir. I would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin and the Anishinaabe people. It's extremely important that we acknowledge the traditions, the histories, the values of Indigenous peoples to this land and make a firm commitment to follow their lead in being better stewards of this land. As I said, this is extremely important announcement, not only for Canada, but our alliances with NATO and NORAD. There's a lot of work, important work that is taking place, which our colleagues and friends will be speaking to. So at this moment, I will like to invite Minister Joel Lightbound, the Minister responsible for Government Transformation, Public Works and Procurement, to come forward and make the announcement. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you, and thank you, Yasser. I'll just note that as of last week, Quebec Lieutenant as well, you forgot, so please. Thank you to all of you folks for being here today, and in particular to the team here at Telesat for this warm welcome. I gotta say the weather outside is fitting to talk about the Arctic today, so thank you for making this possible today and taking time out of your day. C'est un grand plaisir d'être ici à Telesat au siège social et je suis très heureux d'être avec mes collègues Yasser, Parm, Jenna, bien sûr, David, Steven. Merci aussi à toutes les équipes, aussi l'équipe de MDA Space qui est ici avec nous, donc M. Greenlee, M. Goldberg, merci pour l'accueil. Je veux aussi remercier évidemment le maire d'Ottawa pour sa présence aujourd'hui. Merci de nous accueillir dans votre ville pour cette annonce importante. It's an honor to be here today with companies like Telesat and MDA Space who aren't just building systems, they are building Canada's security, sovereignty, and innovation for decades to come. And we have a lot of work to do together. Pour le gouvernement du Canada, une chose est claire, la défense de notre pays passe par l'Arctique. Nearly half of our landmass, vast landscapes, and more than 130 Indigenous and Northern communities where people live, raise their families, and work. Their knowledge, presence, and expertise are what make Canada's sovereignty real. People in the North are not just living there, they are building economies, leading their communities, and protecting the land and waters. Mettant les premiers peuples, que nos hommes et nos femmes des Forces armées canadiennes qui défendent vaillamment notre souveraineté dans le Nord n'ont pas à ce jour, pour leur sécurité, pour leur prospérité et pour notre sécurité collective, les équipements de communication dont ils ont besoin à la fine pointe de la technologie. Right now, our personnel in the north don't always have reliable communications, operating at freezing temperatures in weeks of darkness without being able to send or receive mission-critical information. Search and rescue, medical emergencies, and community safety all depend on communications that actually work and that work in the most testing conditions on Earth. C'est pour ça que le projet qu'on annonce aujourd'hui est si important. On met en place des communications satellitaires sécurisées et dédiées pour l'Arctique, et on le fait avec des entreprises d'ici. Today, I'm proud to announce a strategic partnership with Telesat and MDA Space to deliver the Enhanced Satellite Communications Project, Polar. These companies will design, develop, and deliver the satellites systems that our armed forces need. We're prioritizing advanced dual-use technologies that connect not only our CAF members, but also ensures sovereign Canadian connectivity infrastructure. It's one of the first major procurements led by our new Defence Investment Agency, and I'm glad that my colleague Steve Furr is here with us today. As part of this partnership, Canada is awarding $2.92 million to Telesat and MDA Space to start engineering and analysis, ensuring the system is Canadian-made, reliable, and built for northern conditions. What we're announcing today is exactly what Canadians should expect: clear priorities, smart investments, and solutions that work in the real world. This project strengthens our armed forces, protects Canadian sovereignty, and will lead to the creation of hundreds, if not thousands, of high value-added jobs. Le partenariat qu'on annonce aujourd'hui va faire tourner nos industries et garantir que le travail soit fait ici au Canada. Telesat et MDA Space ont montré qu'ils pouvaient livrer dans des conditions réelles et je suis très heureux d'être ici pour officialiser cette entente qui va générer des bénéfices concrets et tangibles pour notre monde. Merci infiniment pour l'accueil. And now I'll turn it over to my friend and colleague, our Minister of National Defense, David McGuinty. Merci beaucoup.
I was just saying to the Minister, we forgive him for being the Quebec Lieutenant. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour. Thank you all for being here. I can feel the brain power in this room. This is a great start. This is an exciting moment. This is what we're trying to do in action. Joël et Stephen et mes collègues parlementaires, merci de faire avancer le travail important que nous menons pour moderniser l'approvisionnement en matière de défense. As Joël was saying, Canada and our allies are navigating one of the most complex security environments in modern history. Things are changing fast. Russia's aggression in Ukraine, tensions in the Indo-Pacific, instability across the Middle East and North Africa. The global strategic landscape is shifting rapidly, and we must be very clear, something I share with my 4 adult kids when they listen. The pace of change will never, ever be this slow again. Here at home, the Arctic is transforming at an unprecedented speed. Melting ice is opening new waters and attracting new activity. For Canada, this is not a distant concern anymore. It's a direct challenge to our sovereignty and to our security. And I like to say, a theme that I will pick up on in years to come, I hope, natural security is increasingly becoming our national security. In this moment, the ability to assert our sovereignty, not just defend it, has become essential. Et c'est exactement ce que permet l'annonce d'aujourd'hui avec Telesat et MDA Space. We are equipping the Canadian Armed Forces with a capability that is foundational to modern defense. It's secure, it's resilient, it's Arctic-ready satellite communications. The Enhanced Satellite Communications Project Polar gives the CAF the ability to operate effectively across the North, in all seasons, across all domains, in the most challenging conditions on the face of the Earth. It supports CAF operations from coast to coast to coast, including search and rescue, Operation Nanook, northern patrols, surveillance, infrastructure support, and the full spectrum of pan-domain training. It ensures that our people, including the Rangers, air crews, sailors, soldiers, special operators, can communicate clearly, safely, and reliably. Cette capacité renforce notre dissuasion. Elle aiguise notre réactivité. Et elle consolide directement la souveraineté et la sécurité de l'Amérique du Nord. The Government of Canada is making record pan-domain investments to modernize our defense. And these are long overdue. But let me be really clear. These investments will do more than strengthen our security. They will grow our economy. Telesat and MDA Space are anchor Canadian companies, and we're proud of them. They drive innovation, they build intellectual property, they create high-skilled jobs, and they help position Canada as a global leader in space technology.